Quasi here, and in this video I want to share with you the unconscious resistance that's creating obstacles in your reality that normally wouldn't be there, and how we attribute too much meaning on things, and how to control your internal state so you no longer move with friction throughout life and create these obstacles that normally wouldn't be there, but rather move with pure intention. I really want you to pay attention to this video, maybe even watch it a couple of times, because this took me a really long time to figure out. But not only that, this is something that's very subtle, and it's also the very biggest reason why people keep staying stuck, and it almost feels like it takes them too long to achieve their goals when it shouldn't be taking this long anyways. Okay, by the end of this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 keys to really make sense of this. Also visually represent this with a graph to deepen your understanding. So make sure you watch this till the very end. Before I get started, I just wanted to quickly announce that a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me for the Reality Mastery program. Make sure you wait around till the end of the video for the announcement on that. And with that, let's get started. So in this video, I want to talk to you about resistance, and not in the general normal sense that we think about, okay? But more so resistance in the sense that there is an unconscious part of you that's resisting and creating these obstacles that normally wouldn't be there. Now, how does that even happen? You know, how does me resisting something create obstacles in my reality? Well, the phenomenon is essentially called importance. Okay? What do I mean by that? Well, we usually create these obstacles in our reality that normally wouldn't be there when we think that things are too important. It's kind of like you make a mistake last minute and then you try to correct that mistake, and you're putting too much pressure on yourself. What happens is you don't even see the mistake. Let's say you lose something. Let's say you lose your passport like 5 minutes before your flight takes off, and then you frantically look for it, and then your flight leaves or something, and then the whole time it was in your left hand, but you've been looking for it, right? This kind of thing happens because you put too much pressure, too much meaning on something, and this importance creates what is known as excessive potential, okay? So importance creates excessive potential. What do I mean by that? Well, it's essentially like this. Excessive potential is kind of like gravitational potential. When I put the pen up here, it gains this gravitational potential. It wants to go down to the lowest state, the most stable energetic state, right? It wants to go down to the ground, but it can't go down to the ground, so it gains a potential, okay? When I drop it to the ground, this potential energy gets transferred into kinetic energy due to the movement, right? So just like that, when you put too much meaning on something, let's say you have a goal that you really want to achieve, and you need it and you want it, and it's super important to you. When you put that much importance on something, what you do is you create this inhomogeneity in the field of the universe. Okay, so reality sees this as an imbalance. The field of the universe is completely perfect, completely balanced, and all of a sudden your thought energy creates this imbalance because you're putting so much meaning on this. And just by doing that, nature takes the path of least resistance to balance out that excess potential. Okay, let's say, you know, you have a goal and you've wanted to achieve it for so long, an income goal, but then for some reason you just get so close to achieving it, but it doesn't happen. You get so close to making that 30K month, but it doesn't happen, right? And that's because you put too much meaning on it. When you do that, nature will take you very close to it, but then it has its own way of, you know, balancing out this excess potential based on what the path of least resistance is. And for that, the path of least resistance is not giving you the goal itself, because it would take too much energy to actually bring the goal to you. It rarely ever happens that because you put too much importance on it, you achieve the goal, right? When you put too much meaning on something, more often than not, the more you need it, the more you push it away. That's why we can never achieve our goals with just desire. Desiring something is sort of like daydreaming about it, and it just creates more and more resistance, more and more excess potential. The only way to achieve something is to transmute all of that energy of desire, that potential of desire, into actual intention, which focuses more on the movement towards the goal rather than the goal itself, okay? Desire is like daydreaming about the goal. Intention is focusing on the movement towards the goal. But when you make something too important, you're naturally going to create this excess potential anyways. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So understand that importance creates this excessive potential, but what I want you to also understand is that things can be important, but when it gains a disproportionate amount of meaning compared to other things in your life, that's when it becomes a problem. So nothing can ever be too important. Things can be important, but nothing can ever be too important. When it is too important, you can almost guarantee life is going to test you by taking it away from you. When you hold too tightly onto something like your wealth or something, usually one of two things happen. You're never able to, first of all, enjoy your wealth, or life will just take it away from you. You lose it. You make a certain amount of money for a certain amount of time, but then eventually it goes away. Okay? So, yeah, nothing is ever too important, and understand that the more meaning you attach to something, the more you're creating this resistance. Whenever you feel that for some reason there's an obstacle, like I get so close to achieving the goal, but why is there an obstacle every time that last minute I'm almost an inch away from achieving it? That's when you got to let go of that importance, right? So now let's talk about how to reduce this importance, right? How do you reduce this importance and how much meaning you attribute to something? Well, the goal is to reduce this importance, right? But the problem is sometimes you can consciously reduce this importance, and you can say to yourself, you know what? I'm aware that I'm putting too much meaning on it. Okay, let's just reduce the importance I attribute to it. Let's just focus on something else, some other goal. Maybe this will take a little bit of time to happen. But then other times things get a little bit too important that it almost makes you anxious. And when you try to consciously reduce it, it seems like you're fighting against yourself again, right? That's what I call the emotional tipping point. This was very, very key for me to understand, and it did really take me a long time to figure out. So let me demonstrate this for you. Essentially what happens is on the x-axis, let's say we have importance, okay? And on the y-axis, we have this resistance that you create in reality. Let's say you want to get to a goal and you slowly, you start to put in more and more importance to it. Naturally what happens is we get entangled with this process of life. The more we try to move towards our goals and the more we immerse ourselves in the process, naturally a little bit of attachment comes to it because you've worked so hard to get here, right? So you've got to become conscious about when you put too much meaning on it and drop that meaning. But for some reason, at some points, we can't do it. And the place we can't do that at is here. This is what we call critical. Let's call this critical importance, or AKA emotional tipping point. So one of two things can happen here. You can either move on the trajectory that it just gets worse and worse because now you actually fight against yourself. More accurately describing this would be a more infinite, more exponential growth of this resistance. So let's say, your importance is getting high. Within this region, you can actually consciously reduce this importance, okay? There's a certain point up until you can just tell yourself, okay, you know what? I'm putting too much importance on it. Okay, let's take the foot off the gas for a minute. Let's let it cruise. I'm just gonna let go. But then what happens is sometimes it doesn't work. You forget to do it at that time. And then you hit this point when it becomes too important. And now you can't consciously reduce that importance. So at this point, at emotional tipping point, okay, at critical importance, what you got to do is now the only thing left to do is change the relationship you have to this emotion. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say usually what happens is at this emotional tipping point, you become anxious and you try to reduce this anxiety, you try to get rid of this anxiety, you try to shift your focus. None of it works. What do you do then? At that point, the only thing left to do is to surrender and let it be. Okay? Stop trying to fight it, because now what you do is you have this emotion, right? Let's say this is a negative emotion, let's call that. And it's trying to get out, but the more you fight against it, the more you try to change it, the more it gets stronger and stronger. The more this happens, the blue line happens. The best thing to do is just let it be anyways. Change your relationship to it. Stop trying to fight the anxiety. Stop trying to fight the fear. Let the fear be. There are some points where you can't consciously reduce your fear. Let's say you are afraid of heights, and then you have this rope going from a high precipice from one side to the other. And as you put one foot in front of the other on that tightrope, you feel fear. Stop trying to fight that fear. Let that fear be there, right? Because if you try to fight that fear, you're going to raise this importance, you're going to raise this excess potential or this resistance more and more. And the more you do that, the more life will want to throw you off board and to plunge you into your own death, right? The only thing that's keeping you on that rope is your own intention energy. So it exhausts a lot of energy trying to fight your emotions. Have you ever seen that? When you have anxiety and you try to fight this anxiety, and the more you fight it, the more depleted you get and the more stronger it gets. Because the more you resist it, the more you give it energy, the more you feed it. And the best thing to do at this point, if you want to follow the purple trajectory or the pink trajectory, and ultimately, I suppose, reduce this importance, is just let go of it. This graph wouldn't be accurate because essentially what this is saying is importance is increasing, but importance and resistance are on one line. So more accurately describing it would be, both importance and resistance are the same thing. They're on the same curve. This is just time. Okay? This is just time. So what happens is the more importance you put on it, the only way to reduce that importance back to zero, that resistance back to zero, is if you change the relationship to that emotion. Stop trying to fight the anxiety, stop trying to fight that fear, let it be. And now it automatically just goes back to zero anyways. That's the most healthiest attitude to have towards any emotion that you have that you don't like and you want to get rid of. The more you try to fight that emotion, the more it gets stronger and stronger. Okay? So now let's recap the 3 keys. I hope this made sense, by the way. What I want you to understand from this is essentially that there is an emotional tipping point where you can no longer consciously reduce the emotions. You can't consciously reduce that meaning you put on it. You've been trying so hard, and now when that result doesn't happen or something bad you're anticipating is going to happen, you feel fear, you feel anxiety. You can't do anything about it. It's futile to try and fight it and resist it. The only thing left for you to do is just let it be. If the worst case scenario happens, fuck it. Let it be. Okay? So now I want to share with you 3 keys that'll help you completely reduce these resistances that you have, okay, and the importances that you have. I want you to pay close attention to this. Number 1 is you got to ask yourself the obstacle question. Whenever you're seeing that all of a sudden these obstacles are showing up in your reality, what you got to ask yourself is simply this: where am I putting a disproportionate amount of meaning that's causing this? Anytime there's an obstacle in your life that seems like an obstacle, it's more often than not you putting too much meaning on something. So you got to ask yourself, where am I putting so much meaning that this obstacle is presenting itself? And then work on number 2, consciously reducing that meaning. Consciously reducing how much meaning you put on it. To give you an example, in January of this year, when I hit my first 100K month in my business, I was so close to hitting 100K month, and on the last day of the month, I think it was at 99K. And I was like, man, I'm 1K away from hitting 100K month. So I naturally put a lot of importance on it, and I saw that it wasn't really going well. The more importance I put on it, the more it took me further and further from the goal. So I saw what was happening. I saw that I was just putting too much meaning on it. And on the last day of the month, I think I did a 10K day, and it went to 109K. And I ended the month at 109K, all after reducing that importance. I can't tell you how many times we've had clients in our program just reducing that importance. People like Victor, he closed his biggest ever real estate deal and made 50K in profit within 2 months on a deal. I'm going to put that up here, and all as a result of coming at it with less importance. People like Trey as well in the Reality Mastery program, he had his highest ever revenue month in his business, doing a 35K in 1 month, all as a result of just letting go and detaching, right? So this is what I mean. When you reduce the importance and the meaning that you put onto your business, you put onto getting a certain result, naturally you move with intention. All that's left for you is just, this wall that you have and this intention that's trying to protrude. It's trying to, you're just getting in your own way, right? When you put too much meaning on something and you put too much importance on something, you're creating more and more obstacles. The only way to make this hole in the obstacle so you can move forward anyways is to reduce the meaning that you put onto it. So you can move with pure intention, okay? People think that, if I hold on to my goal and I secretly, desire it every single night and pray for it and cry about it, it's going to happen. No, being a victim isn't going to get you to your goals. It's actually going to, quite the contrary, get you further away from your goals. I used to think that when I was younger, like, oh, if I just want it enough, it's going to come. Because when you're a child, you get into that conditioning. You just cry to your parents about a toy and then they give it to you. But that's not how it works in reality, right? What you got to do is move with the aura of pure intention. Stop trying to create, stop holding on to that goal. Stop desiring it. Just move all your focus on the movement towards the goal. Don't need it. If it happens, great. If not, no problem. If it doesn't happen now, it just means it's not happening now. It's going to happen later. It is inevitably going to come. You have this irrevocable faith that it is going to come ultimately. Okay? Which brings me to number 3. If you can't change and can't reduce the meaning that you put onto it, let it burn. Let it all just burn. Fuck it, just let it be. If things are going badly, just let it all burn. I can't stress to you how powerful this is. If you can't change your emotions, change the relationship to your emotions. This is key. This is when you surpass that emotional tipping point, and instead of carrying on up in your importance and the trajectory and fighting the emotions, this would resemble fighting. This would resemble surrendering. When you surrender, the importance level again goes back to 0. You surrender it, you let it achieve entropic bliss. This is what life wants to go to. It wants to expand more and more, right? It wants to get to more and more disorder and entropy. Now there's this concentrated energy, within you, the anxiety you feel, which also creates that inhomogeneity in reality, right? That's why this excess potential is created. Nature wants to balance it out. Nature wants to create more entropy. So with that, I conclude this video. I sincerely hope this was helpful. Let's recap, okay? What we talked about was these resistances which created these obstacles that were unseen to us, and how there's an obstacle is simply by, well, I'm so close to achieving the goal, why isn't it happening? That's when you got to drop it, right? So most people create these obstacles, and we all do this. I myself do this via putting too much meaning, too much importance on things. Things can be important, but nothing can be ever too important, okay? And what importance essentially does is it creates excessive potential. What excessive potential is, it's kind of like gravitational potential, but with your thought energy. Okay? When I put this pen up here, it gains gravitational potential. It doesn't want to stay here. It wants to go down to the lowest energy state. Okay? Just like that, when you put too much meaning on something, it concentrates your thought energy in one ball and it wants to expand out. So nature comes in and balance forces come in and wanting to balance this out and create balance, destroy this inhomogeneity and create homogeneity in the field of the universe. And it can do this by either, giving you your goal or taking you away from your goal. And the easiest thing for it to do is take you away from the goal itself. Kind of like you have a crush on someone, and the more you put them on a pedestal, the more you generate this excess potential. But it's easier for nature to take this person away from you rather than convincing that person to like you. It expends less energy. Life always takes the path of least energy. Okay? The best thing for you to do to move forward towards your goal is let go needing it and just move with your intention. Right? That's the sweet spot between effort and surrender. So, understand nothing is ever too important, and the goal of all of this is to reduce the importance and the meaning you put onto these things. Okay? And what we talked about was the emotional tipping point. Because sometimes it's very, very easy for you to consciously reduce your importance, but other times you just can't. You surpass a certain threshold where you just can't control these emotions and the anxiety and the fear is too strong. This is what we call that critical importance level. Okay, the emotional tipping point. And when you get to this point, the only thing to do is to surrender and let it be and let it all burn. Because the more you fight it, the more you resist it and give it more energy. And the more it leads up to creating even more resistance and more importance. Okay, and you'll see that the more you fight it, it exhausts you as well. Because it takes up your intention energy to fight that emotion. And this is what you're essentially doing. You're creating this wall that naturally wouldn't be there. And the 3 keys are, first of all, when you see that you're close to achieving a goal and for some reason you can't close in on it, ask yourself, where are you putting too much meaning? Where are you putting too much meaning? Where are you attributing a disproportionate amount of meaning? Consciously reduce that. Number 3, if you can't consciously reduce it, at least change how you react to your emotions, how Because it's kind of like this, you have anxiety, but then you have anxiety about the anxiety. And then you have even more anxiety about the anxiety. And then you have more anxiety about the anxiety about the anxiety. So it just compounds on itself. It goes anxiety to the power of 3, right? So it just multiplies and multiplies and multiplies, and it gets worse and worse. The best thing for you to do is just cut it off here, change your relationship to it, and let that anxiety be. Let the fear be. Let the importance be. Let yourself desire it. Stop fighting it. Right? It's the most counterintuitive approach, but you got to learn to play with these poles if you want to be successful with what you want, right? So with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And also, let me know what sort of videos you would like to see. Give me some suggestions. I'd love to make some and really get down deep into them. This was something that was suggested by someone in our customer community in one of our weekly coaching calls. And as I mentioned before, the free one-to-one consult with me for the Reality Mastery Program is now open. Make sure you click on the link in the description below to sign up for that. Me or someone from my team will be giving you a call at the time that you sign up and really determine how to get you from your current situation to where you actually want to get to. We usually work with those who are, first of all, professionals. They want to take their professional careers to the next level, or they want to work on their personal lives, their relationships, and they've seen that they've been attracting the same patterns. They have all the skills, they've done all the doing and taken all the actions, tried all the techniques, and nothing really works. But the problem isn't in the doing and the action, but the problem is in being. Helping you shift that perspective so you can come from a different state of being and do from that place of being, right? Einstein said that insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting the same result. But I think it would be more accurately said that insanity is being the same person, doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. It's not the doing that just has to change, but also who you are, who approaches this doing. Right? So yeah, professionals who are looking to take their careers to the next level, on paper they should be successful, they have all the skills and everything, but what's missing is that internal ceilings keeping them stuck here. People who are entrepreneurs, again, who are stuck at a certain revenue level, you want to scale up, but the problem is you have all the mentor skills and strategies. What's missing is that internal ceiling. An internal block is keeping you stuck here. If that sounds like you, make sure you click on the link below to sign up for the consult, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you. Also, a free Facebook group is open for you to take advantage of. The link for that is also in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Peace.